Alien Baron gifts a human and alien girl in a box as a token of gratitude. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character, Rhett Callan. The first thing he felt was the sting of static crawling across his gloves as he stepped out of his battered shuttle and into the storm-lit courtyard of Fortress Ruin. Acidic rain hissed against the metal plates beneath his boots, each drop bursting into tiny sparks of blue. The Dravex sky above twisted with violent green funnels, the kind of storm that would tear a human-built hull in half if he lingered too long. Rhett pulled his jacket tighter and followed the line of armored guards guiding him toward the ceremonial platform. He had come to collect payment for repairing the Baron's crippled cargo cruiser, a job that nearly cost him his shuttle and half the skin on his arms. He expected credits, maybe a handshake, definitely attitude. Instead, the moment he stepped beneath the obsidian archway, the guards dropped to one knee, and Baron Velkar Ruin appeared in a shimmer of violet light. The Baron's skin was onyx black, polished like carved stone, and his eyes glowed like coals left too long in a forge. His smile was thin, polite, and wrong in a way Rhett couldn't name. "Human," the Baron said, voice echoing as if spoken by more than one throat. "You saved my vessel. Such loyalty deserves a rare reward." Rhett forced a nod. "Just doing my job. Happy your crew's alive." "Alive," Baron Ruin repeated, amused. "Yes. And appreciative." He raised a hand. 3 guards stepped forward, carrying a long metal container covered in glowing runes. Cold vapor spilled from its seams. Rhett's pulse jumped. Something inside the box shifted. "What is that?" "Your payment," the Baron said smoothly. At his gesture, the lid folded open with a deep hydraulic groan. Inside lay a young woman. Alien, luminous, impossibly still. Silver skin shimmered under the stormlight, her long pale hair fanned out like liquid moonlight. Runes wrapped her wrists, ankles, and the base of her throat, still glowing faintly. Her chest rose in slow, shallow breaths. She was alive. "What is this?" Rhett whispered. "A Lemurian," Baron Ruin said proudly. "Pure blood. Unspoiled. Her kind can heal wounds that would kill your species. I present her to you as a token of gratitude." Rhett stared at the girl, then at the Baron. "You're giving me a person." "A gift," the Baron corrected gently. "A valuable one. And a gift must not be refused." The storm boomed overhead like a warning shot. Rhett felt every instinct scream to walk away, to leave the creature in the box and get off this poisoned world. But then her eyelids fluttered. Just for a second. Just enough for him to see the terror behind the violet glow of her eyes. Not fear of him. Fear of what refusing the Baron would mean for her. His throat tightened. He swallowed, tasting metal. When he finally spoke, his voice came out steadier than he expected. "I'll take her." The Baron's smile sharpened. "Excellent. May she serve you well." The box sealed again with a hiss. And in that moment Rhett knew 2 things. He had just agreed to something he didn't understand, and whatever the Baron called gratitude was closer to cruelty than honor. As the guards loaded the container onto his shuttle, the storm winds roared harder, pushing against him like a living thing. It felt like the planet itself was trying to tell him he'd made a mistake. But it was too late. The girl was his responsibility. And somewhere deep inside that metal box, she was waking. The storm's echo still clung to Rhett Callan's ears long after his shuttle rose from the courtyard of Fortress Ruin, carrying the sealed container that held the alien girl. The engines groaned as he pushed through the turbulent upper clouds, their vibrations shivering through the metal floor beneath his boots. In the dim cargo bay, the long metal box lay secured with thick straps, its runes still glowing a faint blue that pulsed like a heartbeat. Rhett kept glancing at it as he ran system checks from the cockpit, unable to shake the weight in his gut. He told himself it was just concern about flying through storm turbulence. But that was a lie. Something about the girl. Inside the box lingered in his thoughts like a splinter he could not pull out. The way her eyes had opened for that single second. The way she seemed to plead without making a sound. He switched the shuttle to autopilot and walked back to the cargo bay, each step echoing against the metal grating. As he approached the container, The temperature dropped, cold vapor coiling around the edges like pale smoke. Rhett placed his palm against the lid. He felt warmth beneath the metal, the unmistakable heat of a living body. He whispered under his breath, "You are not a gift. Not to me." A weak thud came from inside. He froze. Then another, softer, like someone tapping, barely conscious. Rhett unlocked the container's outer clamps. The runes dimmed. The seals exhaled with a long hiss, releasing a wave of chilled air. When the lid shifted open, the dim cabin lights reflected off silver skin. The girl curled inside blinked slowly, her breath trembling, her chest rising with effort. Her wrists still glowed with the runic bindings. Her eyes, the color of fading violet embers, fluttered toward him. She tried to speak, but the moment sound reached her throat, the collar at her neck sparked with sharp blue light. She gasped and recoiled. Rhett's pulse shot up. He reached for his toolkit and knelt beside her. "Easy. I am going to get that thing off you." She shook her head weakly, fear widening her eyes. "It shocks you when you speak," he said softly. "That is not staying on you." Rhett slid his tools beneath the collar, careful as a surgeon. The device hummed with alien circuitry, each layer designed to suppress, restrain, break. He found the first latch, then the second. The collar shuddered once, then powered down with a fading whine. He lifted it away. The girl exhaled in relief. Her voice, when it finally came, was barely more than breath. "Why help?" Rhett sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because you are not property, and you are not payment." She watched him like she had never heard those words before. Her fingers brushed the edge of the container, trembling. Rhett reached in and helped her sit up. Her skin was warm, almost radiant. Her hair shimmered like strands of light caught in motion. She touched her throat, then looked toward the cockpit window, staring at the stars outside with an expression that cut straight through him. Oh, fear, disbelief, like she was seeing freedom for the first time. Rhett handed her a cup of water. She held it with both hands, steadying herself. "My name is Rhett Callan," he said gently. She hesitated. Then, soft, fragile, she whispered, "Sari. Vala." Her name hung between them like the first piece of truth in a world full of lies. She tried to stand but faltered. Rhett caught her before she fell, his hands steady around her arms. She did not flinch. Not anymore. A faint tremor shook the shuttle as they drifted beyond Dravex's atmosphere. Rhett glanced at a blinking light on the console. Incoming signal. He moved quickly back to the cockpit, checking the scanner. A transmission from the surface. Weak. Coded. But unmistakably Dravex military frequency. His blood ran cold when the message decrypted itself. "Return the asset. She is classified as Baron Ruin's biological property. Failure to comply will be considered theft." Rhett's jaw locked. Behind him, Sari stood unsteadily at the cargo bay entrance, gripping the doorway for support. She looked at him, eyes full of dread as if she could feel the danger in the air. "He is coming," she whispered. Rhett's heart hammered. Outside the viewport, 3 dark shapes broke through the cloud cover, closing in fast. Dravex hunters. Baron Ruin was not done with them. And this time, he was sending death to retrieve his gift. The 3 Dravex hunter ships closed in with ruthless precision, their angular hulls cutting through the fading storm clouds like blades. Rhett Callan stared at the radar display as the signatures locked onto his shuttle one by one, each pulse bright and hostile. The cockpit lights dimmed for a moment as the ship adjusted power to the shields. A warning tone echoed through the cabin, sharp enough to tighten his grip on the controls. Behind him, Sari Vala steadied herself in the doorway, her silver hair drifting softly with the hum of the engines. Her voice trembled. "He will not let me go? Baron Ruin does not release what he calls his property." Rhett shot her a glance. "You are not property. Not to him. Not to anyone." She lowered her eyes, as if she wanted to believe him but had never been allowed to imagine such a thing. The proximity alarm blared louder. Rhett snapped. Back to the controls. The 3 hunters spread into formation, boxing him in. Their engines glowed a deep, violent red, the color of Dravex aggression. "Hold on," Rhett muttered, flipping the manual override. The shuttle jerked violently to the left as he forced a dive. The hull creaked under sudden atmospheric pressure. Sari gripped the doorway until her knuckles turned pale silver. The hunters responded immediately, dropping after him with predatory grace. Beams of blue plasma cut across the sky, missing his starboard wing by inches. Every flash lit the cockpit in cold lightning. "They are not trying to destroy us," Sari whispered. "They are hurting us." Rhett's jaw clenched. "I know. They want us alive long enough to drag you back." A second volley of plasma bolts streaked past, closer this time. Rhett yanked the controls, pulling the shuttle up sharply. The engines groaned in protest. The hunters split into a pincer maneuver, one climbing high, two sweeping under him. Sari's breath became shaky. Her knees buckled. Rhett acted fast. He unstrapped a spare harness from the wall and clipped it around her waist, securing her to a support rail. "You are safe here. I promise." Her violet eyes met his. Fear mixed with something else, a fragile trust, forming in the cracks of her terror. "They will kill you, Rhett Callan, just to retrieve me." "Yeah," he said quietly. "But they will have to catch me first." He slammed the throttle forward. The shuttle surged, engines howling as they crossed into the lower stratosphere. But the hunters accelerated too, their sleek designs built for pursuit. A targeting lock flashed red across Rhett's display. He cursed under his breath. Then the first shot struck. The impact jolted the ship, so hard Rhett tasted blood. Sparks burst from the panel near his elbow. The cabin lights flickered. Sari cried out as the shuttle lurched sideways. A second hit followed, tearing across the rear stabilizer. The shuttle spun for a moment, caught in a violent spiral. Warning sirens screamed. Rhett fought the controls with both hands, muscles straining. Come on. Come on." He forced the stabilizers to reboot manually. The spin slowed, then halted. But they had lost altitude, fast. Beneath them stretched a canyon system carved into the planet's crust, jagged and deep. Rhett's eyes narrowed. If they want to follow, they will have to get close. He angled the ship downward. Sari's voice trembled. "What are you doing?" "Evening the odds." They plunged between the canyon walls, stone blurring past at dangerous speed. The hunters dove after them, but the narrow passage forced them into a single-file column. Rhett smiled grimly. "Got you." He cut the thrust, dropping speed abruptly. The first hunter shot past him unintentionally. Rhett flipped the auxiliary trigger. A flare capsule launched, slamming into the hunter's underside. The blast wasn't lethal, but it was enough. The hunter spiraled out of control, scraping against the canyon wall with a metallic scream. Sari gasped softly in awe. "You fight like someone who has nothing to lose." Rhett shot her a faint smile. "Or someone who has something to protect." The moment hung between them until another alarm blared. The remaining two hunters tightened formation, preparing another attack. Up ahead, the canyon narrowed even further. Rhett pushed the throttle. "Hold on, Sari." She gripped the harness, chest rising with fear and hope together. The walls closed around them, red dust swirling in their wake. The hunters followed, engines roaring behind them. Rhett's fingers hovered over the emergency boosters. "If this works, we live. And if it does not..." He glanced at her, eyes steady. "Then we go down fighting." The boosters ignited in a burst of white fire. The shuttle shot forward like a launched spear, flames streaking behind it. For the first time since opening her container, Sari's expression changed. Not fear, not pain, but something closer to belief. And behind them, the hunters gave chase, diving into the firelit canyon where one wrong move meant death. The canyon walls closed in so tightly that Rhett Callan felt the stone scrape the shuttle's left wingtip, sending a metallic vibration through the entire frame. Dust swirled in red sheets outside the viewport as the boosters burned white-hot behind them. The remaining Dravex hunters stayed in pursuit, their engines glowing in angry crimson that flickered across the canyon walls. Rhett gripped the controls, sweat collecting across his brow despite the cold blast of the failing ventilation system. Every sensor warning blinked at him like a row of furious red eyes. Behind him, Sari Vala clung to the support rail, her silver hair drifting with every sharp turn. Her breath shook, but her gaze remained locked on Rhett, following every move he made as if her life depended on it. And it did. The canyon narrowed further, funneling them toward a jagged fork carved deep into the planet's crust. Rhett studied it quickly and found his opening. "Hold on," he called out, twisting the shuttle hard to the right. The engines screamed as they scraped rock, but the ship squeezed through. One hunter tried to follow. It was too large. The tip of its wing clipped an outcropping. The ship spun violently, spiraling into a burst of red fire that lit the canyon like a flare. Sari gasped, covering her mouth. You destroyed it. Rhett shook his head, eyes narrowed. It destroyed itself. I just did not give it space to kill us. Only one hunter remained, and it was closing. Fast. Its plasma cannons powered up, glowing white-blue. The energy charge lit the canyon like daylight. Rhett braced. This is going to get rough. A bolt streaked past, searing so close that the shuttle's hull snapped and popped under the heat. Rhett flipped the auxiliary stabilizers, forcing the shuttle into a climb. The canyon walls parted above them, opening into a massive chamber of rock and light. Sunlight from a rift in the ceiling poured into the cavity, turning the dust into swirling gold. The hunter burst into the chamber behind them, its silhouette cutting through the haze. Rhett angled the shuttle hard and fired a flare from the belly launcher. It detonated beside the hunter, momentarily blinding its sensors. The enemy ship wobbled, but regained control quickly. These pilots were trained for darkness, not light. Rhett knew he needed to end this now, and he only had one risky option left. He pulled the shuttle higher until they skimmed the top edge of the cavern, leaving almost no room for maneuvering. You are too close, Sari called out, fear rising in her voice. You will crash. Rhett shook his head. Not if the hunter hits first. The enemy ship surged up behind them, copying his altitude. It matched his movement perfectly, waiting for him to falter. Rhett slowed, barely a tap on the throttle. Just enough. The hunter adjusted. A fraction too high. Its dorsal fin scraped the stone ceiling with a deafening screech. Sparks rained down like a comet tail. Rhett dove. The hunter tried to recover, engines roaring in panic. But its tail clipped a stalactite the size of a small house. The impact shattered the formation, sending a massive stone pillar collapsing onto the hunter's hull. The ship vanished in a thunderous explosion that shook the entire cavern. Rhett steadied the shuttle, guiding it toward a narrow exit tunnel. Only when the display showed no signs of pursuit did he finally exhale. Sari's voice came soft behind him. You saved me again. Rhett looked over his shoulder. Her eyes shimmered in the golden dust, but her expression was haunted. Sari, he said quietly, saving you was never the plan. But I am not letting them take you. Something inside her shifted at those words. A tremble, a fragile awakening. You mean that, she whispered. I can feel that you mean that. Rhett nodded, powering down to let the engines cool. We are not out of danger yet. But as long as you are on my ship, you are safe. She stepped closer, resting a hand against the back of the co-pilot's chair. The glow beneath her skin brightened, faint but real, warming the cabin. Then I will trust you, Rhett Callan, she said, her voice steadier than he had heard it. Even if I do not understand why you risk yourself for me. Rhett swallowed. Maybe you will someday. For a moment, the canyon was quiet. Dust drifted like falling embers. And in that silence, something unspoken settled between them. Something fragile, something beginning. But outside the cavern, beyond the rock walls that sheltered them, Rhett did not notice the small blinking light on the console. A tracker. Active. Silent. Broadcasting their location. Straight to barren ruin. The blinking tracker signal pulsed faintly on the console, but Rhett Callan did not notice it yet. His focus was fixed on guiding the shuttle out of the canyon's final narrow passageway and into the open desert beyond. The engines hummed low, cooling after the brutal chase. A long stretch of cracked red earth lay ahead, illuminated by the dim orange glow of Dravex's sinking sun. The light poured through the cockpit, turning the dust motes into drifting sparks. Behind Rhett, Sari Vala moved carefully through the now-still cabin, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. The soft glow beneath her silver skin had not faded. If anything, it was stronger, a warm halo that seemed to follow her movements. She ran a slender hand along the wall, feeling the hum of the ship like she was listening to the heartbeat of a creature she did not yet understand. Rhett looked back at her. How are you holding up? She hesitated, searching for the right words. I am overwhelmed, but not afraid of you. That is new for me. He gave her a small smile that softened the tension carved into his tired face. Good. We could both use something new today. She lifted her eyes to the cockpit window, watching the desert stretch endlessly ahead. Where are we going? Rhett tapped a point on the NAV screen. There is an abandoned mining station about 40 miles from here. Old Terran outpost. If we are lucky, It still has power for basic shelter. Shelter, she repeated softly, as if tasting the word. A place that is safe. Rhett nodded. Safe is the goal. Outside, the last hunter's explosion rumbled across the canyon like distant thunder. But even as peace settled briefly inside the shuttle, Ceri's gaze kept drifting to the console, her brows creasing. She turned away before Rhett could notice. Something bothered her. Something she did not yet understand. Rhett angled the shuttle downward, setting a slow course toward the mining station. The engines sputtered once, a reminder of the damage from the chase. "We will need to rest once we land," he said, adjusting the controls. "You are exhausted." She shook her head gently. "No, you are the one who is burning." He laughed under his breath. "Well, that is not wrong." The ship glided over a ridge, revealing the abandoned mining station below, rusted towers, collapsed scaffolding, and a cluster of half-buried domes. A single landing pad remained mostly intact, half covered in dust. Rhett brought the shuttle down with a careful, steady hand, the landing struts sinking into the dirt with a soft thud. As the engines shut down, silence wrapped around them like a blanket. A silence so complete it was almost startling. Rhett unbuckled himself and stood, stretching stiff muscles. Ceri watched with quiet curiosity. "How do you keep going?" she asked. "You have saved me twice. Your body should not bear this much strain." Rhett shrugged. "Humans are too stubborn to quit. It is kind of our thing." Her violet eyes softened. "On my world, stubbornness is considered a flaw. On mine," Rhett said, reaching for a portable lantern, "it is how we survive." They stepped outside together, boots sinking slightly in the powdery dust. The air was dry, carrying the faint smell of iron. Ceri looked around, her gaze cataloging the ruins with a mixture of wonder and sadness. "This place died," she whispered. "Everything here was abandoned." Rhett nodded. "Terrans left decades ago. The storms in this region got too violent. Mining became impossible." She knelt beside a fallen metal beam, touching it gently. The beam shimmered faintly beneath her fingers. "It remembers pain," she murmured. Rhett blinked. "Metal remembers? Everything remembers. If you know how to listen." Her glow brightened for a moment, then dimmed again. Before Rhett could ask more, his handheld monitor buzzed sharply. A proximity alert. He frowned and checked it. The signal was faint, but steady. Not from outside. Not from the environment. From the shuttle. Something inside it was transmitting. His pulse kicked up. Ceri felt the shift in his energy. "What is it?" He walked back toward the shuttle with urgency. Ceri followed quickly, her expression tense. Rhett entered the cabin and immediately began searching the console. His fingers hovered over the tracker signal. It blinked with quiet confidence, pulsing like a heartbeat that did not belong on his ship. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Someone is tracking us," he said. Ceri's breath caught. Barren ruin. Rhett reached beneath the console and tore away a panel. A tiny device nestled within. A silver disc no bigger than a coin, its surface etched with the same runes that once bound Ceri. She stepped back as if recoiling from a nightmare. "He marked me," she whispered. "No matter where I go, he finds me." Rhett crushed the device in his fist. Sparks burst, then died. He met Ceri's terrified eyes. "Not anymore. You are free. We will break every chain he left on you." But even as he said it, the desert wind shifted outside, carrying a low, distant hum, a sound that grew louder by the second. Rhett stiffened. Ceri's glow faltered. Flashing in the sky, just over the ridge, came the unmistakable silhouette of a Dravex warship descending through the dust. The Dravex warship descended through the orange haze like a falling shadow, its engines rumbling deep enough to vibrate the dust beneath Rhett Callan's boots. The massive silhouette eclipsed the dying sun, casting an elongated darkness over the abandoned mining station. Ceri Vala stood beside him, her silver skin dimming with fear. Her glow flickered in short, trembling pulses, as if her body could sense the ship's presence long before its engines touched the sand. Rhett clenched his jaw. "We need to move. Now." He grabbed her hand and guided her toward the nearest collapsed dome. The wind howled around them, carrying grit that stung their faces. Behind them, the warship's landing thrusters ignited, sending shockwaves rolling across the ground. Metal structures rattled. Loose debris skittered across the cracked earth. Rhett pushed open a rusted maintenance door and ushered Ceri inside the hollow dome. The interior was dark, lit only by thin shafts of sunlight piercing through cracks in the steel. Dust drifted in lazy spirals. Rhett's breath came fast, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Stay close," he whispered. Sari nodded, her eyes reflecting the dim light like amethyst embers. "Rhett Callan," she said quietly. "He is here for me. This is my fault." Rhett turned to her sharply. "No, this is his cruelty. Not your fault. Never your fault." She lowered her gaze, voice barely audible. "You do not understand what I am to him." "Then tell me," Rhett said. "Tell me what he wants." Before Sari could answer, footsteps echoed outside the dome. Heavy, synchronized, metallic. Dravek soldiers. Rhett pulled Sari behind an overturned metal table and crouched low. Through a small gap in the wall, he glimpsed the warship's ramp lowering. Baron Velkar Rune himself stepped onto the sand, flanked by 6 armored guards. His onyx-black skin glimmered under the sun's last rays, giving him an almost liquid appearance. His eyes burned with cruel authority. Rhett felt Sari tense beside him, trembling like a cornered animal. "He used a tracker," she whispered. "There are more." Rhett's stomach dropped. "More trackers?" "Not on me," she said. "In me." Rhett's eyes widened. "In you?" Sari nodded, swallowing hard. "He implants them under the skin. Every Lemurian he captures. He calls it a mark of ownership." Rhett felt something sharp twist inside him. Anger, disgust, a sense of violation that was not even happening to him, but felt personal. Outside, the Baron's voice carried across the ruins. Smooth, cold, confident. "Sari Vala," he called, as if addressing a trained pet. "Come out, and I shall spare the human." Rhett muttered under his breath. "I really hate him." The Baron continued. "This is inevitable. You know this. You are not meant to run." Sari's breath shook harder. Rhett grabbed her shoulders gently. "Sari, listen to me. You do not belong to him. You are free." "Free," she echoed, voice breaking. "Free," Rhett repeated firmly. "And I am not handing you over." For a moment, she just stared at him. Confusion, fear, and something like fragile hope swirling behind her eyes. Then the Baron spoke again, and his words hit Rhett like a punch. "Sari Vala, daughter of the Lemurian sovereign line, last of your kind, your existence belongs to me." Rhett froze. Sari squeezed her eyes shut, tears forming. "It is true," she whispered. "I am the last heir. My people are gone." Rhett inhaled sharply. "He wants your power, your healing ability. He wants control of it," she corrected. "A Lemurian sovereign can regenerate, restore, even reweave damaged biology. With me, he becomes unstoppable." Rhett whispered. "Then he is never getting you." Outside, the Baron raised his hand. Soldiers fanned out, scanning the ruins. They were seconds from surrounding the dome. Rhett reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a compact pulse grenade, small, low yield, but enough to blind sensors and buy time. "When I throw this," he whispered, "we run to the south ridge. The ground dips there. We will be out of sight long enough to reach the shuttle." Sari hesitated. "Rhett, if you run with me, he will hunt you forever." Rhett managed a crooked grin. "Then we run fast." He thumbed the grenade to active mode. The timer blinked blue. He met Sari's eyes. "Ready?" She nodded, her glow rising like a fragile spark in the dark. Rhett exhaled, braced himself, and whispered, "Now." He tossed the grenade. A brilliant flash erupted across the sand. The soldiers staggered. The Baron shielded his eyes. And Rhett grabbed Sari's hand, pulling her into a full sprint as they burst from the dome and fled into the dying light. The pulse grenade's blast had barely faded when Rhett Callan and Sari Vala sprinted into the dying light, their feet pounding across the cracked desert floor as the abandoned mining station shrank behind them. Dust clouds rose with every step, clinging to their boots and stinging their eyes. The sun had nearly slipped beneath the horizon, turning the world into a vast field of rust-colored shadows stretching like fingers toward them. Rhett could hear the panicked shouts of Dravek soldiers behind them as they recovered from the blinding flash. Their heavy armor scraped against metal and stone, the sound unmistakable. Sari ran beside him, her breath trembling, her silver skin glowing faintly with each desperate stride. But she had never run before. Not freely. Not like this. Her legs faltered and used to the violent rhythm of escape. Rhett slowed just enough to catch her arm and stabilize her. "Keep your weight forward." Trust your momentum, he said, breathless. She nodded quickly, focusing on his voice like it was the only thread anchoring her to survival. Behind them, the roar of an engine exploded through the canyon of ruins. Then another. Dravex sandbikes. Fast, predatory, built for rough terrain. They are gaining, Sari whispered, fear rising. Rhett tightened his grip on her hand. Then we do not stop. The ground sloped downward toward a jagged ridge, where red dust pooled in swirling clouds. The wind whipped their clothes, and the distant hum of the warship's thrusters rumbled overhead. Rhett spotted the dip he had mentioned, the natural trench carved into the desert floor, deep enough to hide them for a moment. Maybe two. This way, he called, pulling Sari toward it. As they reached the ridge, Rhett leaped first, sliding down the steep incline in a shower of dust. Sari followed, nearly losing her balance, but landing safely against him. The sand bikes screeched above the ridge line, their searchlights slicing through the air. Rhett pulled Sari behind a boulder, his pulse hammering against his ribs. The gusting wind drowned out some of the engine noise, but not enough. One wrong move, and the riders above would spot them. Sari crouched beside him, trembling not from fear alone, but from something deeper. Rhett noticed her glow flickering rhythmically, pulsing like a heartbeat out of sync. Sari, he whispered, what is happening to you? She pressed a hand to her chest, her voice wavering. My energy, it reacts to danger. My body wants to respond, but I do not know how to control it. Rhett swallowed. Will it hurt you? No, but it might hurt them. She sounded afraid of that possibility. Rhett put a steady hand over hers. Right now, we just stay alive. Above them, a sandbike slowed. The beam of its searchlight drifted along the ridge's edge. The rider scanned the trench. A second bike pulled alongside it. Rhett drew his pulse pistol silently. The charge. Indicator blinked low, damaged from the earlier chase, but it was still usable. One shot. Maybe two. Not enough against two riders. Sari sensed his tension and whispered, let me try something. He turned to her quickly. No, not yet. You are still recovering. And if you push yourself, if I do nothing, he will take me. She replied, voice breaking. Rhett clenched his jaw. She was right. The lead rider dismounted, scanning the trench with a thermal scope. The second aimed his weapon toward their direction. Rhett readied his pistol, but before he could rise, Sari stepped forward, her hand trembling. Stay behind me, she said softly. Rhett's eyes widened. Sari. Light rippled beneath her skin. A dim shimmer at first, gathering along her arms and flowing toward her fingertips. The glow brightened, spreading through her entire body like liquid silver igniting from within. The air around her vibrated with a low hum. The riders reacted instantly, shouting commands. One fired. The plasma bolt streaked toward them. Rhett moved to shield her, but the bolt never hit. Instead, the light around Sari flared, forming a thin, shimmering veil of energy that absorbed the impact with a soft, ringing sound. Sari gasped in surprise as much as Rhett did. I did not know I could do that, she whispered. The riders panicked. One scrambled back onto his bike. The other fired again, 3 rapid shots. But the shimmering veil held strong, bending each bolt into harmless sparks that vanished in the sand. Rhett watched, stunned. Sari, you are doing it. You are controlling it. But her glow flickered violently. Her body shook. She was pushing beyond her limit. Rhett grabbed her shoulders firmly. Enough. You did it. That is enough. Her light dimmed as she staggered into him, exhausted. The riders turned their bikes and retreated, engines screaming as they sped back toward the warship to report what they had witnessed. Rhett held Sari close, feeling her labored breaths against him. You protected us, he murmured. You saved us. Her voice came faint, fragile. I did not mean to. I just wanted to stay with you. Rhett's heart tightened. He lifted her carefully in his arms. Then hold on. We are getting back to the shuttle. The desert wind roared around them as he carried the glowing, trembling air of a vanished race toward the only chance they had left. I will write Part 8 exactly as instructed, maintaining tight continuity with Part 7, following the trained style, and sustaining narrative tension, emotion, and cinematic pacing in a single unbroken block of approximately 686 words. Now the desert night settled quickly around Rhett Callan as he carried Sari Vala across the shifting red sands toward the shuttle hidden beyond the southern ridge. Her silver glow pulsed weakly against his chest, warming the cool evening air. Each step felt heavier, not because of her weight, but because he could feel her trembling, not from fear this time, but from exhaustion and the strain of releasing power she did not yet understand. The sun had vanished, replaced by the enormous twin moons that hung like pale, watchful eyes above the ruins. The hum of distant engines had faded, giving them only a thin pocket of time before Baron Ruin's forces regrouped. Rhett tightened his hold around her. "Stay with me, Sari. We are almost there." Her breath brushed against his collarbone, soft but uneven. "I am trying. My body, it feels like it is burning from inside." Rhett's jaw clenched. "You pushed too hard. You shielded us. You did more than anyone should expect." "I did not do it for them," she whispered. "I did it for you." The words struck him deeper than he expected, cutting through fear and adrenaline with something quieter, something heavier. But there was no time to respond. A gust of cold air swept across the valley as they reached the ridge. Just beyond it, the shuttle sat partially concealed beneath a collapsed mining structure, its beacon switched off to avoid detection. Rhett hurried toward it. As he approached, he noticed something that made his pulse spike, the faint outline of footprints in the dust leading toward the shuttle. Not his. Not Sari's. Someone had been here. Recently. "Rhett," Sari murmured, sensing his change in energy. "What is wrong?" He set her gently on her feet behind a slab of metal, raising a hand for silence. He moved forward slowly, pulse pistol drawn. The shuttle door was cracked open an inch, swaying in the wind. Rhett's breath tightened. He pressed against the hull, edged toward the door, and pushed it open with the barrel of the pistol. The shuttle interior was dark. Too dark. He stepped inside, sweeping his weapon side to side. Something shifted in the corner. Then a faint voice came from behind a support beam. "Do not shoot." Rhett froze. A young Dravek soldier stepped into the dim light, armor scorched, one arm hanging limp. Not attacking, not even fully standing. He collapsed to his knees. "Please," the soldier whispered. "I am not here to fight. I defect." Rhett stared, confused. "You what?" "I saw what she did," the soldier said, his breath ragged. "The light she carries, the power of the Lemurian sovereign line. Baron Ruin will consume entire worlds to control it." Rhett kept his weapon trained. "Why tell me this?" The soldier lifted his good hand and pointed toward the horizon, where distant lights flickered like crawling stars. "Because he is coming with the warship, not to recapture her, but to drain her alive." Rhett's stomach dropped. Drain. Her blood. Her energy. Her core. A sovereign can heal, but only if she remains whole. If she is harvested, her power becomes permanent fuel. Rhett felt cold rage crawl through him. He wants to kill her for power. He intends to, the soldier said. Tonight. Rhett grabbed the soldier by the collar, furious. What else does he know? Everything, the soldier gasped. Your escape. Your path. Your hiding place. And, he choked. He knows she activated her power. He knows she is awakening. A sudden tremor rattled the shuttle. Rhett turned toward the doorway. Sari stood there, her glow brighter now, reflecting off the metal walls. "Awakening," she whispered, as if tasting the meaning. Rhett stepped toward her quickly. "Sari, listen to me. We need to leave now. We need to get off Dravex before Run arrives." But Sari's eyes had changed. The fear was still there, but something else flickered within them. Something ancient. Something remembering. Memories began to resurface behind her expression like fragments of a broken mirror rearranging into shape. "Rhett," she said, voice distant. "I remember something." He held her shoulders gently. "What do you remember?" She lifted her hand. Light gathered in her palm, soft at first, then growing brighter, stronger, steady. "I was not just born to heal," she murmured. "I was born to command the Lemurian core, to choose who may touch its power." Rhett's breath caught. "Sari, what does that mean?" Her violet eyes locked onto his. "It means I am not a prize, and I am not a victim." She exhaled, and the light radiated outward in a wave that swept across the desert. "It means Baron Ruin is not the hunter anymore." Outside, the warship engines ignited the night sky like a second sunrise, and Sari's awakening answered it. The warship's engines turned the night sky into a violent whirl of blue flame as Baron Velkar Ruin descended upon the desert, his silhouette a towering shadow framed by the blaze. The ground trembled beneath Rhett Callan's boots as he stepped in front of Sari Vala. shielding her with his body, even though he knew he could never stop what was coming with force alone. Yet he stood there anyway, because humans did that. They stood in front of impossible things. Ceri's glow, awakened in a trembling pulse moments earlier, now rose slowly like a second moon behind Rhett. Her light spread in soft ripples across the sand, bending around stones, brushing against his back in warm waves that steadied his breath. The air vibrated as Baron Rune emerged from the warship's ramp, armored guards flanking him in symmetrical formation. His voice boomed across the valley. Cerivala, you cannot run from what you are. You cannot run from me. Rhett shouted back. You do not own her. Baron Rune's eyes burned with furious amusement. I own everything she is. Her power, her birthright, her life. You, human, are merely delaying the inevitable. Ceri stepped beside Rhett, her bare feet sinking into the warm sand. I am not yours, she said, her voice clear, strong, echoing strangely under the twin moons. I remember my lineage. I remember what my mother told me before the fall of our people. Baron Rune's smirk vanished. You remember nothing. I remember enough, Ceri answered. The light beneath her skin rose in a steady glow, no longer flickering, no longer frightened. Baron Rune lifted one hand. The guards raised their weapons in perfect unison, charging plasma rounds that whined with lethal power. Rhett moved in front of Ceri fully now, his arms outstretched as if he could catch every incoming blast. You will have to go through me. The Baron tilted his head, almost pitying. Very well. The first volley of plasma fire erupted toward them. Rhett braced for pain, but none came. A sphere of radiant silver light burst outward from Ceri, enveloping them both. The bolt struck the barrier and dissolved into harmless motes. The guards fired again, faster, angrier. The light held. Rhett looked back at her, stunned. Ceri, her eyes were pure violet fire now. I choose who may touch my power. I choose who I fight for. The Baron roared in fury. You are a weapon, a resource. You are nothing without my guidance. I am nothing with your chains, she replied. The Baron lunged forward, activating the extractor blade on his gauntlet, a device built to pierce Lemurian flesh and drain its energy directly. Rhett did not think. He ran straight at the Baron. He hit him with everything he had. The shock sent them both crashing into the sand. The Baron rose quickly, far stronger than Rhett, landing a strike that knocked the wind from his lungs. Rhett stumbled, blood in his mouth, vision blurring. The Baron raised the extractor blade again. Rhett did not have time to move. A scream tore the air, not of fear, but of power unleashed. Ceri stepped forward, her body erupting in blinding silver light. The air shook. The sand lifted. Every particle glowed. Her voice echoed like a chorus, layered with ancient resonance. You do not touch him. The light exploded outward, not in violence, but in truth. It washed over the valley like a tidal wave. The Dravex guards collapsed unconscious. The extractor blade melted in the Baron's hand. His armor cracked. His shadow shrank. He dropped to his knees, eyes wide with terror. Impossible, he whispered, shaking. A sovereign reborn. Ceri approached him, her steps slow, calm, illuminated by the glow of her own awakening. But her power did not burn. It radiated warmth, life, healing. She stood before the trembling Baron. Your reign ends here. Not by my violence, but by your defeat. The Baron bowed his head, overcome, not by force, but by the weight of his own cruelty finally laid bare. His power crumbled, drained not by extraction, but by truth. When the light faded, Rhett stood shakily, breathing hard. Ceri turned to him, her glow dimming to a soft shimmer. Rhett Callan, she whispered, walking toward him. You gave me freedom. You gave yourself freedom, he replied, voice rough. She reached him slowly, placing her hand against his chest, over his heartbeat. I would not have known how without you. They stood beneath the twin moons, surrounded by silent desert and fallen tyranny. No more warship engines. No. More hunters. No more chains. Just the two of them. One human, one heir to a vanished race. Bound not by destiny, but by choice. Rhett whispered, what now? Ceri lifted her gaze to the stars. Now, she said softly, we go anywhere we choose. And in the reflection of her violet eyes, the stars looked human for the very first time.